Trump officials could face contempt of court for defying an order to turn around deportation flights to El Salvador. Iran has confirmed that the next round of nuclear talks with the United States this weekend will be held in Rome. Glaciers in Sweden and Norway are melting at an increased rate as the planet continues to get warmer. A US federal judge has said he's found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt of court for violating his order to turn around planes carrying deportees to El Salvador. Judge Boasberg said he could initiate legal proceedings if officials do not return to US custody those who were sent to the Central American country in breach of his order. The Trump administration has said it will appeal the ruling. Meanwhile, Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen traveled to El Salvador on Wednesday to advocate for the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a man deported in March despite a court order blocking his removal.
I'm asking President Bukele, under his authority as president of El Salvador, to do the right thing and allow Mr. Abrego Garcia to walk out of a prison.
Van Hollen claims he was told the Salvadoran government would not return Abrego Garcia and denied his request to visit him in detention. In his first major speech since leaving office, former US President Joe Biden criticized the Trump administration for, he said, causing so much damage and destruction.
Fewer than 100 days, this new administration has made done so much damage and so much destruction. It's kind of breathtaking it could happen that soon.
Biden spoke at a disability rights event in Chicago on Tuesday evening, during which he also accused the Republican president of taking a hatchet to Social Security. As part of a push to reduce federal spending, Trump's government has targeted the Social Security Administration, with the Department of Government Efficiency planning to cut 7,000 jobs. Thousands of staff members have already left the agency, leaving benefit claimants to deal with website crashes and long call wait times. The Trump administration responded to Biden's comments by alleging that he was lying to Americans.
Giorgia Meloni's meeting with US President Donald Trump in Washington on Thursday comes at a crucial time. With Trump threatening a trade war against the EU, her visit could be key to help both Italy and Europe avoid an escalation in tensions. Trump's decision to pause some of the planned measures has softened the tone, but can Meloni actually bring home a meaningful result?
La possibilità di ottenere delle concessioni è limitata e questo sarà un problema perché naturalmente gli europei chiederanno conto alla Meloni per questa visita. I dossier su cui maggiormente si concentrerà l'attenzione saranno quelli economici, industriali, in particolare quello della difesa. La Meloni andrà a offrire un aumento della spesa per la difesa. Questa spesa naturalmente andrà a favore anche delle industrie americane. Qui c'è un punto di tensione perché questo entra in conflitto con il progetto Rearm Europe che dovrebbe essere invece a favore dell'industria della difesa europea.
Meloni also supports the EU's proposed zero-for-zero tariff deal on industrial goods with the US.
But the feeling here in Rome is that beyond what Meloni may achieve from this meeting, her aim is to send a message to her coalition partners and strengthen her leadership, striking a balance between the positions of the two deputy prime ministers. On the one hand, Matteo Salvini, who's more focused on safeguarding Italian interests, and on the other, Antonio Tajani, with his pro-European stance.
Un vero leader non è qualcuno che va a improvvisa, è qualcuno che sente tutti i propri partner, usa qualsiasi strumento per consolidare lo scambio di opinioni e il valore di quello che i partner possono portare. Gli interessi italiani e gli interessi europei in generale collimano. Ovviamente l'Europa è leggermente più complessa, ma Meloni va negli Stati Uniti come primo ministro italiano per ragionare in un bilaterale, il primo bilaterale ufficiale con il presidente eletto degli Stati Uniti. Poi ovviamente l'Europa sta molto confidando in Giorgia Meloni.
Giorgia Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
China has unexpectedly appointed a new trade negotiator in the midst of its tariff war with the United States. The government said Li Shenggang is replacing Wang Shouwen, who participated in negotiations for the 2020 trade deal between China and the US. China didn't specify why it was changing negotiators, but the move comes at a time when Beijing is looking for ways to survive without the US market. Meanwhile, China's President Xi Jinping arrived in Malaysia on Tuesday following a visit in Vietnam. Xi is touring Southeast Asia in an attempt to make the case for China as a more reliable trade partner than the US. The Chinese leader will end his tour with a stop in Cambodia.
Iran has confirmed that the next round of nuclear talks with the United States this weekend will be held in Rome. The announcement comes after earlier confusion over the location of the negotiations. Officials initially identified Rome as hosting the negotiations, only for Iran to insist early on Tuesday that they would return to Oman. An Iranian state TV announcement said Oman will again mediate the talks on Saturday in Rome. Meanwhile, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian formally approved the resignation of one of his vice presidents, Mohammad Javad Zarif, who served as Tehran's key negotiator in its 2015 nuclear deal with world powers. The 2015 deal saw Iran agree to limit its nuclear activities in return for international sanctions relief. But since U.S. President Donald Trump's withdrawal of the deal in 2018, Iran has abandoned all limits on its nuclear program.
The Israeli army will remain indefinitely in the so-called security zones it's created in the Gaza Strip, Lebanon and Syria, Defense Minister Israel Katz said on Wednesday. The decision could further complicate talks with Hamas over a potential ceasefire and the release of the remaining hostages. Israel's forces are present in more than half of Gaza after it broke the ceasefire with Hamas last month. Hamas has said it would not release the remaining hostages without a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza and a lasting ceasefire. Meanwhile, Israel has also refused to leave some parts of Lebanon after a ceasefire with Hezbollah late last year. In Syria, it took control of a buffer zone in the south after rebels toppled President Bashar al-Assad in December. Palestinian leaders, Lebanon and Syria all view the presence of Israeli troops as a military occupation in violation of international law.
The UK Supreme Court has ruled that under the British Equality Act, a woman is defined as someone born biologically female. This means that transgender women would be excluded from this definition, even when they have a certificate that recognizes them as female. The case stems from a 2018 Scottish law requiring 50% female representation on boards of public bodies, which included transgender women in its definition. The Scottish campaign group For Women Scotland, which had challenged the law, praised the ruling.
It means there's absolute clarity in law regarding what a woman is. We know for sure now that we are referring to the biological sex class of women, and that when we see a women-only space, it means exactly that. Just women, no men, not even if they have a gender recognition certificate.
Other feminist groups celebrated the ruling outside the court.
Relief and joy. It's exactly what we were hoping for. That the Supreme Court would recognise that women are female, biological females, not men who have filled out a form and got a certificate.
Opponents, including Amnesty International, said excluding transgender people from sex discrimination protections conflicted with human rights laws. Amnesty submitted a brief in court saying it was concerned about the deterioration of the rights for trans people in the UK and abroad.
Glaciers in Sweden and Norway have been melting at an accelerated rate as the planet continues to get warmer as a result of climate change. In 2024, the warmest year on record in Europe, they melted by an average of 1.8 metres. Glaciology experts warn the disappearance of glaciers could have significant ecological consequences in the long term.
Vi måste vara rädda om de här små isarna som är otroligt viktiga för oss människor. Det är energi, jordbruk, vattentillgång, allting. Och hela ekologin i fjällen och Alperna är beroende av det här vattnet som kommer och går.
This year, heavy snowfall has helped the glaciers recover slightly, but Professor Nina Kirchner said this has just created a false sense of security.
Det viktigaste är att man tar den här snörika vintern inte som ett tecken på att det inte är någon fara. Jag vet att i längden kommer det inte spela någon roll och i längden kommer glaciärerna krympa i Sverige.
The IPCC has warned that if we continue as we are, 4 out of 5 glaciers in Sweden will have shrunk significantly or completely melted by the year 2100.